So recently I joined a new reenactment group. I don't really think I've said anything about it on my page yet, so I guess this can be my official announcement. As you guys know, I've been doing 101st Airborne reenacting for a long time now, but I was never really part of a specific group that did that, so now I guess I have a group to call my own. The group reenacts the 502nd PIR Baker Company of the 101st Airborne Division. That means that I have to repaint my helmet because I didn't have it painted with the correct symbol.
Movement 1 o'clock!
If you didn't know already, before D-Day, the 101st Airborne Paratroopers painted symbols on the side of their helmet so people could easily tell what group they were a part of. So currently I have a cross on the sides of my helmet. That was for the 326th Airborne Medical Company, but now that I'm joining the 502nd PIR Baker Company, I need to add a heart shape to my helmet. That was the symbol for the 502nd, and as you can see here, other PIRs used card suits and a bunch of different other markings. The heart is just what the 502nd had, so that's what I need to paint. I started off this process by printing out a heart and cutting it out. They actually had one on the reenactment group's website, so I'll use that one. That way it'll be the right size and shape and everything. You can see it has that tick mark next to it. I'm not gonna add that on my helmet because that would be correct for later operations like Operation Market Garden and later in the war, but it wasn't really used by specifically Baker Company of the 502nd for D-Day. When I painted that cross on my helmet, I had a Cricut machine at the time. That's one of those automatic paper cutter things. So I just put in a program for that cross and it cut it out. I don't have that anymore. I returned it because honestly, it was really hard to use and I didn't like it. So I'm cutting this one out by hand. Last time I put some duct tape down on the Cricut machine and had it cut the shape out of duct tape. Then I had kind of a makeshift stencil and I just stuck it right onto the helmet. I'm gonna try to do the same thing by cutting the duct tape by hand. We'll see how that goes. So after thinking about it, I think instead of using this heart shape that I cut out, I'm gonna actually use the heart itself that I cut out. I'm gonna stick that onto the duct tape and then cut around it. Then I'll have duct tape with a hole in it that's the shape of this heart. I can just stick it right onto the helmet. And keep in mind I have to do 2 of these because the heart goes on both sides of the helmet. This is gonna be tough because it already stuck to itself, as you can see here, which is not great. So in theory, if I just cut right around the heart, I'll have a perfect heart-shaped stencil. Hey, what do you know? So I'll be able to stick that right onto the helmet, but now, like I said, I have to make another one to go on the other side. Alright, so now we have 2 stencils. Let's take these over to the helmet and see what we can do. Alright, so I'm outside with my helmet. I'm going to try to stick these on quickly because the wind is blowing and they are getting stuck to everything around me. I've already painted over the sides of the helmet where I had that cross. I just used the J. Murray paint. It's meant to be sprayed on, which is how I restored my other helmet, but for this, I didn't think the whole thing needed a new coat of paint, so I just kind of brushed it right over that spot where the cross was, and then I'm gonna stencil this on top of it. It's pretty easy to tell where I should put these because I already kind of measured that out to do the cross, and I can still just barely see the faintest cross back there. So the good thing about this is that in World War II, most people just hand painted these on. So if it's not perfect, it's really not a big deal. So I have my white paint here. It's just a Tester's acrylic white paint. You can see that I had a spill with my green paint and it kind of got all over this bottle, but hopefully none got in the actual paint. If I recall, this paint is really runny. If I put too much on there, it might run underneath the duct tape. We might get some amount of that no matter what, but I can always cover that back up with the OD green paint. So I'm gonna do really light coats. I'll probably have to put a lot of coats on this, but that's the way it is. I'm gonna try to paint inward from that stencil. Oh, you can see, getting a drip already. Yeah, this stuff is really runny, wow. Okay, let's try taking some off the brush. I used to make scale models when I was young, so the smell of this paint really takes me back to that. And we'll see how that dries. I'm gonna do the other side too, but I'm not gonna make you guys watch that. All right, that last coat of paint dried, and it's time for a new one. Seems like it's covering the green paint underneath pretty nicely here. And again, most people during the war actually painted it with a brush and probably no stencil at all. So if you can see the brush strokes on the final thing, really is not a big deal. All right, that's looking pretty good to me. I don't even know if we'll need another coat after this. I'm gonna let it dry and see how it looks, and then we'll go from there. All right, I'm back. It looks like that coat dried nicely. I am gonna put on one final coat, and then I'm gonna peel these off while it's still wet, because I don't need to leave it on there. It's pretty well covered right now, but I don't think an extra coat would hurt. I mean, this is gonna get pretty banged up while I'm using it, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that on. All right, now that I put that coat of paint on, it's time for the moment of truth. Let's peel these off and see how it looks. Just keep in mind that if it's rough around the edges, I'm assuming it will be, I'm gonna go in and touch that up with the olive drab paint that's the same color as the helmet. So don't worry if it kind of looks like crap right now. We'll get that sorted out. Let's see what we're working with. That looks pretty good. Like I said, I knew I would have to touch up around the side. I had to do that with my last one too, so I figured that'd be the case. But overall, I think it's nicely covered. And once I touch it up, it should do pretty well. Let's see the other side. Yeah, I'd say that one looks about the same. Once this dries, I'm going to go ahead and take that olive drab paint and touch it up, and I'll keep you guys with me for that one. All right, so that dried really nicely. I just have to go around and clean up the outside. I don't know if you guys can see really well. I'm sure you can see that the outline is rough, but the part that was actually inside the stencil is like clearly painted and really thick layer of paint. The stuff that's rough around the outside is like a very thin just a couple of drips of paint. So it should be pretty easy to go through and clean that up because I can tell what is and what isn't supposed to be there. I also got a new brush out. It's a better brush, but it's also really hard because I guess I didn't clean it well enough after the last time I used it, or apparently I didn't clean it at all because it's covered in paint. Either way, the edge on this should allow me to get in there a little bit better and clean up these edges. All right, so I'm trying to get just the smallest amount of paint on here, and I'm going to start going around and cleaning up that edge. Try not to stick my nose right in the paint can while I do this. That'd be nice. All right, I think that looks pretty good. It's not perfect by any means, but as I've said, soldiers painted these on by hand, so if it's rough around the edges, that's fine. Time to do the other side. All right, I think I'm finished with this side too. All right, it's one day later. I just put some finishing touches on my helmet. Let me show you guys. Alrighty, here it is. So as you can see, I put a helmet net on here, nothing special, just the, I think it's the 1/2 inch net, which is the typical one for 101st Airborne. It's the darker shade, the olive drab. You can see that any little imperfections in that heart there are pretty hard to see with this on it, but it's good enough that I'd feel comfortable wearing it without the net and the scrim and everything on there too. And I just said scrim. If you don't know what that is, it's these little burlap strips on here. So I have some in different colors. You see a lot of American paratroopers on D-Day using that, and a lot of American infantry too on D-Day. Some people think that was just a paratrooper thing, but it definitely was not. You see a lot of infantry guys wearing that. I didn't cover up the hearts with the scrim, obviously, just so people can see that. And then in here I have my liner. This is a J. Murray helmet. I know I've said that, but I have a nice period looking picture in there. And yeah, I'd say this helmet is about ready for use in my next reenactment. Well, thanks so much for watching, guys. I'm going to be doing a full video on all my airborne gear that I'm wearing for D-Day Ohio pretty soon here, so keep an eye out for that. Thanks for following me while I made this helmet. I'm super happy with it, and I can't wait to wear it at my next event. Looking forward to going with that new group I mentioned, 502nd PIR Baker Company, and I'll definitely let you all know how that event goes. All right, thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.